let's get into a team on the rise, a team I actually like quite a bit, the New York Rangers.
Yeah.
So
the Rangers here, right? Projected hit is 77 mil on the cap, which gives us about almost 5 mil left, right? Pretty good. I mean, roster size right now, we're 4 contracts out of what the league is looking for. As far as like roster, like the actual roster size, we're still missing a few pieces. Nothing is definite. One of the names that's on here that's a restricted free agent at the moment, the RFA, is Kaapo Kakko, right? A lot of questions about surrounding him right now. He was part of that kid line that helped them in the playoff run. But let's start off at the top here, right? Artemi Panarin, 11 mil player, 100%. I can't even knock it. My man, he scores, he passes, he makes other players better even when he's struggling. He's one of those guys that his love of the game translates into chemistry and into the people around him, which is why he made someone like Strome, who never met his potential, right? Strome was a first-round draft pick of the Islanders way back when, and he just never got to what everybody saw him getting to, right? But playing with Panarin, he had his best season, and he's one of those guys that just really makes people better. The people around them.
Yeah. I mean, look at okay. Looking back, 77 points in your rookie season is insane. 30 goals, 47 assists, 77. Like, dude, this dude has never. Yo, that's wild. He is essentially way greater than a point per game player. He had 96 points last season, 22 goals, 74 assists for 96 points. Like, he is a phenomenal player. I mean, some people thought in Chicago it was due to Kane or Taves. I'm like, no. This guy's just talented.
Yeah.
And they call him the bread man for a reason. He has filthy vision, filthy hands. I think he was dinged up last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, I do too.
Because he didn't feel right. He didn't look right.
Yeah.
But, Panarin is a proven winner, proven producer.
11 mil worth? Yes. 100%.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely. And let's go. So, who would you say is overpaid on this roster?
Overpaid. Honestly, they don't have room to overpay anybody. Everybody they got here pretty much is producing at the rate that they're getting paid. Fortunately for us, as far as like forwards, right? You look at the defensemen. Yeah, same thing. I mean, if you look at points, maybe Jacob Trouba's a little bit overpaid. Maybe he's a 7 mil defenseman, 6 mil defenseman. That's probably the only one. But I mean, what the leadership he brings to that defensive core, yeah, he deserves that 8. So the Rangers have done a really good job getting rid of overpaid players, right? They still carry some of that dead weight. They still have some of that
dead cap money.
Dead cap space.
Like Shattenkirk for 1.4, Dan
right.
Gerard 1.1,
right.
D'Angelo 883,000.
Yeah,
which all comes off the book next year, which is key. So you'll have 3.4 million more next year to sign.
We have almost 6 mil because you look further down. We're still paying freaking Brad Richards, who retired 5 years ago. Jesus.
It says 0 for his cap hit right now.
No. Oh yeah, you're right. So I think we just got rid of it. I think because we were paying Brad Richards this whole time, so that alleviated some stuff or whatnot. But let's take a look at all their current players. Nobody's really overpaid, thankfully.
I have one though. I have one for you. Ryan Reeves.
1.75.
I mean, for Ryan Reeves,
for being your tough guy.
I think 1 million is in today's current age. I think 1 million is like the most I would pay for a guy like Ryan Reeves, but you acquired him in a trade. But that's just my opinion. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, slightly. That's about it. Everybody else is kind of producing to what they're supposed to. Obviously, Trojic is a new guy in town That was an acquisition. Yeah, they signed him, and there was an acquisition this offseason. I think it's a smart move. It's a good move for both him and the team. His style of play already fits what the Rangers do because he played for Carolina, and Carolina is literally a mirror image of the New York Rangers. Like, the way their styles are literally mimicking each other. So I think he'll have no problem fitting. I think he'll find his offense, more of an offensive game here in New York than he did when he was in Carolina, because he will most likely be the number 2 center playing along with Panarin. All right, so people forget that Panarin's also not on the top line in this team, right?
Which is crazy.
Right, it really is. But we have the way that they construct the lines is more based off of chemistry than
which is how it should be.
Right,
that's how it should be.
More off of chemistry than this guy should be. He's your top player, so on and so forth. So the first line is normally Chris Kreider, Zibanejad, and then you have a couple of different guys that can fill in the role on left wing. Lafreniere, who you want to develop properly, so you put him next to 2 superstars. Then you come down to the second line. You have a Terry Panarin, you had Strome, and then you had someone like Kapu Kaku, who you tried to develop before he got injured for a lengthy time. You don't forget, they also have someone who's on the IR list here, Sammy Blaze, who didn't get to play all season. He had that really I think he had a, what was it?
Look it up.
He tore something. I think an MCL on what people still say was a dirty hit by Subban in I think it was a preseason game.
Torn ACL.
Torn ACL in a preseason game, and it was one of those situations where he's been a really good player. He was a really good player for St. Louis, and we were expecting to see a lot of big things from him. That injury obviously offset him. But what people don't realize about Sammy Blaze is he's got hands.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, you saw the foot. Did you see the foot on Subban? That was kind of dirty, my dude.
I'm not trying to make this into the injury show, but like that's, well, they're going to play a replay of that. Like, I think Subban's one of the dirtier players.
We got after him after that. 2 games in a row. We definitely went after him. But I don't think he's been that type of player, but I think lately with him losing the edge on his speed, a little bit more on power, he's relying a little more on those little tricky plays to take people out. And not saying that he did this intentionally, but I think he meant to maybe throw him off balance a little bit, but maybe got too much. I'm just trying to play it safe.
I'm not, because I think PK Subban gets away with a lot of bullshit. I mean, look at this.
Here we go.
Why is your leg extended like that?
Yeah, I don't understand why his leg was extended like that while he was making a left turn in the park. You know what I mean? Like,
look at that! Look at that! He threw out his right leg. Come on, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not trying to make this the injury show, but that's
right.
That's a dirty play.
But Sammy Blaze, after watching him play a few games for us, whatnot, he's a big boy, right? He's about Ryan Reeves size, whatnot, but he has hands. He is very skilled for his position. He's a winger. I think he is going to bring a different dynamic to the team. And it's definitely going to be one of those things where you're going to be like, wow, I didn't know he can do that. Because I know when I saw him, that's exactly what I said. Right?
Well, he's still young. He's 26. He has some time.
Yeah.
I like, the most important thing I like about you guys, how you construct, is just let's look at it. Now, you have Artemi Panarin, Zibanejad, Kreider. Stars to superstars in the league, correct?
Yep.
You have Vincent Trojic, who, I've watched him play against the Bruins. Very good center. Very, very good center. Mm-hmm. You have Goodrow, that is a very good player himself. Came over from that Tampa Bay, correctly?
Yep.
And then you have Hedl, who kind of came into his own. Reeves is what he is. You have Lafreniere, who started finally looking like that draft pick. Started looking good. Gauthier, not a bad player. I think Hunt, he is what he is. Carpenter. Kaku's the one here. Mm-hmm. I don't think in New York, especially with them signing Krasov and essentially guaranteeing him an NHL spot, I don't think Kaku should come back. I think if they're smart, they trade him to another team. I don't think he'll ever develop into a top line guy. I think he's a solid third line type guy. I could be wrong, but I don't think there's enough there. That's at least my opinion.
Yeah, as far as the forwards, to be honest, you look at Julian Gauthier. Honestly, if they trade him away, I'm not hurt by it. I think he's underperformed. I think that he doesn't use his abilities the way he should. He's a fast player, and at times he looks very slow, even though he is fast.
Sounds like depressed.
So he, in my opinion, is underperforming. Dryden Hunt, he's kind of is what it is, and I don't think that his is what it is good enough right now for what we're trying to do. He's one of the guys I believe should move, or be sent down, or just have on the taxi cab squad, just in case someone gets COVID, something else, he can fill in. Not a bad fill-in guy. Pardon me. Now let's look at Carpenter, the new additions in the forwards, right, which is Carpenter and Trojic, right? These guys were brought in for one particular reason: to win faceoffs. To win faceoffs so we can control and use the offensive power that we do have. Because during the playoffs, that is the one place we were exposed, regardless of the series, was we could not win a faceoff. We could not control the game in that aspect. We were always working on a counterattack, right? It was very rare when we controlled any type of faceoff. As a matter of fact, when Johnny Gaudreau went out, who was probably our best faceoff person, when Gaudreau went down, sorry, I said Johnny, it's Barkley. When Barkley Gaudreau went down, right, we had the issue where it all fell on Zibanejad, and let's face facts, Zibanejad is a 50-50 type of face-off guy. Sometimes he's going to give you 50%, sometimes he's not. But that's about as good as it gets for him, right? That's the only aspect of his game that I feel he needs to work on tremendously is his face-off ability, right? Outside of that, without Gaudreau, everybody else was not winning a face-off. We had no face-off presence, no worries. It didn't matter where the face-off was. That's where we lose games, right? Yeah. And that was extremely exposed when we played against Tampa. They control the game not because they were overall better. It's because they won pretty much every face-off. They beat us in that aspect, which gave them more control of the game.
Well, I agree to some degree, but I do think Tampa is just a better overall team at that point.
They were more experienced, yeah. 100%.
Well, I think that the problem I had with the Rangers is the moment seemed too big for them. Because even in that Carolina series, right, you could not control the puck in the neutral zone. Like, if you played a better team, you wouldn't have even gotten to that Tampa Bay team. Because it was crazy how bad you guys were in the neutral zone in transition. Which I think some of that comes to youth. Because if you look at this team, a lot of young draft picks and some veterans, so sometimes the moments are just a little bit too big.
Again, that was a series that we started without Gaudreau in the middle.
Yeah.
Again, we lacked that middle presence, which is why I think they went so hard on this offseason, like saying, hey, listen, we need to establish this middle. We need to get these centers in that can cause that presence. And I'm not saying Carpenter's a world beater or anything like that, but he's a solid guy. He played in Calgary last season. He was okay, third line guy, fourth line guy, cool, right? Then you bring in Trojic. That means that you can probably move Gaudreau to the third line, right?
Which is where he belongs.
Right. Now you have three guys in the middle that can control play and a fourth guy who can just hold it down.
No, you guys got far better. The one thing I will say, the one thing that needs to happen is Adam Fox needs to get better in his own end. He's a tremendous talent. Do not undermine what I'm saying here. But in the postseason, he was terrible at his own end at points. Like, he showed flashes, but he struggled. I mean, he has all the talent in the world, right? But he needs to learn his defensive side of the game is the most important. You can be an offensive defenseman in the regular season and forget your own end to a degree, but in the playoffs where it gets a lot more difficult, Defense should be your first responsibility. But what I will say, I think Adam Fox has a very bright future to be, that contract's extremely high, but he's worth all the pennies. Jacob Trouba, that's an overpay, but solid defender. Ryan Lindgren, solid. Condre Miller, I like what I saw from the postseason. Schneider, he's not bad.
So, hold on. I want to make the statement, right, public. I have witnesses that will tell you when Keandre Miller got signed, that by far has been my favorite signing since that moment. And I called him being something special. So far, he is showing up. He's doing everything I expected him to do. And as he gets bigger, one of the comparisons that Ron Greschner, obviously one of the old captains for the New York Rangers, he and I were sitting down for lunch and we had this conversation when that draft class happened. And we could not stop raving about Keandre Miller. He even said the same thing I did, where we said he can be a Bufflin-type player to make that type of an impact on the Rangers. That is how I feel, how Ron Greschner feels. We had this discussion. We went in for supposed to be like a half an hour luncheon, 45 minutes, something like that, whatever. 2 hours later, we're walking out of the restaurant, still talking about Keandre Miller. Honestly, yeah. It was just crazy.
I think Keandre Miller being 6'5" or 6'4", 216 pounds. Let's just bring it up right here before we start closing out the show. He is a big boy, and he's only 22 years old.
And he has hands. And
so last year, 7 goals, 13 assists, 20 points, 82 games played. Good as a defenseman, plus 23. The playoffs, the -5, I'm not going to count on him because when I watched Miller, he played solid, but 7 points in 20 games, that's solid in the postseason. I mean, I listen. I think Keandre Miller has a high ceiling. Mm-hmm. So, do I think he'll be the next Hall of Famer? And I'm not saying that, but I think as a big body, top-type pairing guy that you can pair with a guy like Fox or pair with a guy like Trouba or, be that guy, I mean, I like what I see. I really do. I think he could be a real big difference maker.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and I mean, the Rangers have been developing God bless. So the Rangers have been developing this defensive core for the past couple of years, and it's something to almost marvel at, because before this, they were actually really bad at developing particular players and positions. But since Drury took over, and the moves he's made, the acquisitions he's made, and the way that they're doing training, actually one of my old coaches, Pat Bowler, he's one of the coaches on the
Hartford Wolfpack.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was one of my coaches when I was growing up in high school, and they do a really good job getting those guys ready for that transition from the AHL to the NHL, and they are really good at that. You look at some of the guys that have had to step in during the season for injuries, COVID-related reasons, stuff like that, and they didn't seem far removed from the whole experience or what they had to do. The system that we play in the NHL is the same system that they try to play in the AHL. It's a wonderful development thing. Kudos to Drury for having all this put in place. But now we take a look at the defense core here, and we notice that they're missing someone. Right? Last year we had Nemeth. I wasn't a fan of him. I think we actually played our worst defense with Nemeth there. The numbers will reflect that. If you look at our postseason, we did not win any game that Nemeth played. We do have a few people on defense that can fill in the role. In my opinion, I think that Zach Jones will be the next player to be called up. And I think that he can fill in. But that Niles Lundqvist kid, also another really good prospect.
Okay.
Those two guys I've been literally following for the past couple of seasons.
And there's another guy you have that's kind of a proven NHLer, Jared Tenorti. He's like a good 7th defenseman, 6th guy.
He fills in.
Yeah,
he's a big guy, slow, older,
Yeah.
you know, veteran leadership.
Oh, you guys signed Louis Domingue?
Yes, we did.
I like that. I like that actually a lot because I think Louis Domingue played fantastic for Pittsburgh. And
Yes, sir.
you know what? You know why it's a smart signing? Listen, I like Yaroslav Halak. He was in Boston for a few seasons, but he lost his he obviously lost the job to Swayman that 1 year. But I'll be very honest with you. Yaroslav Halak is older. He's 37 years old. He signed for 1.5. Having someone like Louis Domingue, just in case, is a smart signing. Because you get a guy with some NHL experience that can been proven to be a very capable NHL backup. I actually think Domingue should be an NHL backup. He shouldn't be relegated to a third stringer, but out of all the guys you want, let's just kind of go into it right now. Louis Domingue, in the postseason, my man was a stud. The 902 doesn't explain how good that was. He carried Pittsburgh at points. The last couple of games were rough, but he did a good job in my opinion. Coming in spot start. But Louis Domingue as a career player, 905 save percentage, 3.04 goals against. He's a solid. Is he gonna break the boards down? Absolutely not. But that's a smart signing because if you look at a guy like Halak. I will say this. Halak has a lot of talent, but is he getting a little bit too long in the tooth at this point? That's a question you could ask. Domingue's only 30. Halak's 37. Halak kind of struggled last year with the Canucks. He went 14 games, started 4 wins, 7 losses, 2 overtime, 903 save percentage, 2.94 goals against. But the thing with Halak is, he'll be a solid backup. Shesterkin, let's go to this stud here. This man right here.
This beast.
You play him all the games. If he says, "Coach, I don't have a backup this season," he doesn't have a backup. He plays all 82. Because 53 games played, 52 started, 36 wins, 13 losses. 2.07 goals against. That's disgusting. A 935 save percentage. Somebody call the ambulance. I'm fucking sick. So
and Vezina winner, baby.
He won the Vezina, which he should have. Nobody out of their right minds voting against him. And he had a great playoffs, a 928 save percentage, 2.61 goals against. It wasn't like he folded in the playoffs. You play this man 50, 60 games at the very least. I think all you need for the backups for the Rangers is 20-something games.
Yep.
He's young enough in his career, you can play him 50, 60 games, in my opinion. Now, you don't want to overwear him where you're going into the 70 range, because we've seen that happen where goalies will get 70 games played, and then in the playoffs, they'll start the tires will fall off.
Yeah, you'll see the exhaustion.
Because you need to give him enough rest where he can recover. But, he's young enough where you give him 50, maybe 60 games, and you get solid 20 to maybe 30 games from your backups. I don't think that's unreasonable. But yeah, I really like how you guys have pulled things together here.
Yeah,
really
nice. Like I said, the development has been something much different. One of the big re-signings this off-season, if you look at the non-roster players, was this Tim Gettinger. He's 24. A lot of people have been very high on him for quite some time. I think he's developed pretty well. He's played in a few games last season, but I think that if he shows out very well in the preseason, he might win a spot. How you call it? Back on a defense. I've heard of this Hunter Skinner. He's supposed to be something good. He was a late 4th round draft pick or whatnot. But people have been pretty high on him. You look at his last season in the AHL with the Wolfpack. 49 games played, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points only. Only a -1. That's pretty good.
I mean, I'll say this and go into showing Tim Gettinger's elite prospects. Quite frankly, not bad. It's weird, right? Like, are certain guys at their cap or like at their? Wait. Why did this not? There we go. Sorry about that. Why did this? Is he at his cap? He's 24 years old, so relatively young. Maybe he's getting there. He's in the mid-20s. Last year with the Hartford Wolfpack as the assistant captain, 45 games played, 10 goals, 15 assists for 25 points. Season before that, 23 games played, 9 goals, 10 assists for 19 points. And like he looks like a productive player at the AHL level. He'll probably be like a third liner, something like that. But yeah, I think close it out. I think Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, Tampa Bay. The Rangers have a lot
That's
of.
That's our retirement home. Just so you know. Sorry, Tampa Bay, but it's facts.
Tampa's got a lot of. Jesus Christ, New York Rangers have a lot of good prospects. Yeah, and a lot of upside. So, where do you think they're going to do this year? If you were to say, you think you guys are going to repeat or like the same success, fall back, improve?
Brutally honest opinion. It will depend on what happens with the whole Kravtsov, Kaku situation, right? Kravtsov isn't completely on the roster. If you take a look, he's not on the non-roster. He's not on the roster, but we all know that he's been promised a NHL slot along with a 1-year contract. It's just not showing. Kaku, again, he's one of those guys. He's been in development. He sort of found his game there in the right before the playoffs and into the playoffs, along with that rest of that kid line, which is Hedel and Lafreniere. And like something I said before, same age range, same mentality, allowed them to really build their game together. Their rotation was really good. Their energy was good. It was said by their coaches. It was said by other veteran players. And they themselves made reference to it. Had they been playing together all season, maybe they would have developed into an even better kid line, right? So, curious to see how that would work out if we do re-sign Kaku. As far as Kravtsov, if he is guaranteed a spot, again, I'm okay with not having Julian or Dryden on the squad. With them being left out, but I would want to see something that makes me say he's worth it, because last season he rejected being sent to the AHL Wolfpack and decided to go back to the KHL to play
for the Tractor Chimpesines or whatever you call it. We'll just call it Tractor. 19 games played, 6 goals, 7 assists for 13 points. It's not.
Scroll down so that way we can see it.
Oh, I apologize. It didn't go to that tab. My apologies. Let me. It's on the wrong tab. But yeah, he looks like a solid prospect. 13 points in 19 games isn't bad. It seemed like when he played in New York the season before, 20 games, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points. Like, nothing crazy about that. I mean, he's got some potential from what development people have said, scouts, like he's got some potential there, but I mean, it is troublesome in this regard. Like, instead of accepting the grind of the AHL, he runs to the KHL where it's comfortable. Because look at all this KHL, Russia. Like, I don't know. I don't know how I'd feel about that as a Rangers fan, but I think the one thing I worry about is, does he have the mentality to really get that next step, or does he run away when things get too hard? That's the one concern I'd have.
I do have that same concern. I've spoken to a lot of Rangers fans. Everybody has a similar one. A lot of people would rather him not sign. They'd rather us let him go or get rid of him. I want to say that the mentality behind this may also revolve around Shesterkin and Panarin. You have two guys that are here, are proven at this point, and they're grinding, they're doing, they're producing, and you hope that they can take him and say, hey, listen, obviously they're all from the same country, speak the same language, and maybe kind of give them that little tutelage to get to the right spot and be in the right place with the Rangers. maybe that's their mentality right now going into this next season. Again, I don't know why they guaranteed him a roster spot, but if that's the case, I would assume that might be a thing. Who knows? Maybe that's the key part in that second line. Maybe it's Panarin, Trojic, and Kratov.
Yeah.
Right? And then you keep the kid line together if you re-sign Kaku.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if you sign Kaku, I would definitely just keep that kid line together a whole season and let that chemistry they built in the playoffs, so they can let that further go develop, in my opinion. Because you got Trojic as a good second line center. Zibanejad, your first line center, obviously. I mean, how do you do that? Like, that would be very interesting to see how that goes. Does Gaudreau then move to the wing? I mean, that's...
No, I would keep him on third line. I would say, as far as, like, another winger that they can probably move around there, that's when you look at the Julian Guthiers or Dryden Hunt, see if one of those two guys wins that spot. I mean, Hunt is more of well, both of them play right wing, so either one of them. Maybe you go with a Julian to give Mika and Chris that speed edge, because that's really the one thing that they when they're running and gunning, they're really good, right? So maybe you give Julian during the preseason a look at that right wing and see how he fits with that line. You don't want to sacrifice your centers to play wing, in my opinion. I think that would be a step backwards, considering the moves we made this offseason to acquire centers and to solidify that center position. We have 5 centers on our roster technically, right? And let's see, one of them just doesn't play center, right? Gaudreau wasn't really playing center, but when we switched him to center during the later part of the season and in the playoffs, he won us faceoffs. I would say keep him in his natural position, right? Yeah. The only person who really, before they had the kid line, Hito was a left. We were playing him at left wing most of the season. So, with him moving to center, now you take a look maybe at Carpenter, or maybe they picked up Carpenter because they're not going to sign Kaku, and maybe now you have Lafreniere at right wing, and Hito a left wing with someone like Carpenter or maybe Gaudreau. You know what I mean?
But yeah, there's options. There's a
lot of options with that. So, I mean, still a lot of things to build on. My honest opinion on where they're going to end up, I say they definitely make the playoffs. How deep in the playoffs depends on all those things we just talked about, right? Because literally this team made it that far off of chemistry.
Absolutely.
Because their skill, I'm not saying that they're bums, right? We have good players, but most of the teams we beat had probably some better players in an overall look, right? But our chemistry is what won us most of our games, and our defense. So what they do with that last defensive spot, and what they do with the Kaku and Kratov situation, that will kind of determine on where it goes. So when we make an episode closer to the season and we actually have a roster to look at, I'll give you an honest opinion on where I think they will fall. Right now, I see them making the playoffs. Anything after that is kind of like a gambit. It's it can go either way. I want them obviously to make it all the way, but can't guarantee that. Not at this moment. But I feel really good about it.
All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up everything we wanted to cover for today's episode 1 of The Locker Room. Now, before we head out of here, is there anything you want to say there, Fajardo?
No, I mean, if anybody wants us to look at anything in particular, any teams, any free agents, any restricted free agents, or want to talk about any moves, any signings, any trades in particular, by all means, write it in the comment section underneath. We'll take a look at it, and on the next episode, we will definitely make sure that we let you know who you are and which stories we pick, and we'll cover what you let us know in the comments. And yeah, that's about it.
Alrighty, so for Captain Paul, That is Fajardo, 1BW down below. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are a new channel. We are looking to develop. We are going to be covering hockey, but we'll also be covering other sports like the NFL, MLB, anything that kind of tickles our fancy, and kind of go from there. It is greatly appreciated for any comments down below, because how we want to initiate a lot of these podcasts, these conversations, is by interaction with you, the viewer. So any suggestions down below, feel free to shoot it. Like I said, I'm Captain Paul, that's Fajardo 1BW, and we're the Locker Room, and we'll see you in the next episode. Later.
Later.